It's August 8th, 2020. It's Saturday night and we're all at home watching Disney Channel. On the surface, it seems like a regular old Saturday night in the middle of August. But this Saturday night feels a little different, and that's because we would witness a moment in history. The network's newest animated series, The Owl House, is in the midst of wrapping up its first season with one of its most pivotal episodes to date, Enchanting, Grom, Fright, which primarily centers around the relationship between the show's protagonist, Luz Noceda, and her former rival-turned-friend, Amity Blight. The events of I Was a Teenage Abomination seem like a distant memory. After all, Amity couldn't stand Luz when they first met, and saw her as the cause of everything that had started to go wrong in her life. But over the course of Season 1, Amity's incredibly cold and mean-spirited exterior began to melt away like a popsicle on a hot summer day. The relationship between Luz and Amity rapidly shifted from a one-sided rivalry to friendship to what you see on screen right now. Wait a minute, are they about to confirm what I think they're about to confirm? If they actually go through with this, it would not only be a landmark moment in the history of the Disney Channel, it would also be a landmark moment for Disney Television Animation, aka the studio that actually produces The Owl House. But that is obviously ridiculous, and I am getting way too ahead of myself. There is no way that a cable network that is owned by one of the most powerful media companies on the planet would ever allow such a thing to happen. And then they actually do allow it to happen. Little Miss Perfect, Amity Blight, has a crush on the weird and overly optimistic girl we've grown to love, Luz Noceda. How did we get to this moment, and what were the factors that caused it to happen? In order to answer this question, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, when a young woman hailing from Hamden, Connecticut had an idea for a show about an optimistic teenage girl that accidentally stumbled into the demon realm and aspired to become a witch. Our story begins in the magical year of 2013. Upon graduating from the School of Visual Arts in New York City, Terrace moved to Los Angeles to begin her career in the animation industry. She worked for 3 months as an intern for the digital media company Jib Jab, and it was during this internship that she received her big break. An individual that worked at Disney Television Animation on a show you've probably heard of called Gravity Falls discovered Dana's artwork on her Tumblr page and was so impressed by it that they sent her a board test. Dana did that board test and managed to win over the Gravity Falls creative team. As a matter of fact, they liked her board test so much that they decided to hire her as a storyboard revisionist. She would later get promoted to storyboard artist, which is a position she would retain until the show finally came to an end in 2016. So unlike fellow SVA graduate Rebecca Sugar, we can actually say that Dana got her job because of Tumblr. After Gravity Falls came to an end, she was offered the role of storyboard artist on a secret project that was being developed at Disney TVA. Dana turned down the offer because she was not interested in continuing to be a storyboard artist and was eager for a new challenge. I'll let Dana explain this one.
After boarding on Gravity Falls, I went through a series of jobs that left me feeling kind of dead inside. So when the chance came up to storyboard again on this new project, I told them I wasn't interested in doing the same thing again. I was interested in directing and to contact me if they had an open position, and they were desperate enough to say yes.
That secret project turned out to be a reboot of the classic Disney animated series DuckTales. She would direct 6 episodes in the reboot's first season before moving on to do her own thing. Working on Gravity Falls and DuckTales was a good stepping stone in terms of gaining experience and getting her feet wet in the animation industry, but her creative ambitions went far beyond these two shows. As a matter of fact, she desired to create a show of her very own, and that, my friends, is where the Owl House comes into play. The concept for what would become the Owl House was first conceived all the way back in 2015. The show's premise was simple. An optimistic teenage girl accidentally stumbles into the demon realm, where she decides to become a witch and learn magic under the guidance of a rebellious older witch. Dana briefly flirted around with the idea of the show being set after the main character dies, which would have resulted in the Owl House being set in the afterlife, but as you can probably imagine, this idea never got very far, and that's probably because the afterlife and Disney Channel mixed together about as well as peanut butter and sauerkraut. Dana based the main character of Luz Noceda on a real person, specifically her roommate at the time, Luz Batista, who was also a fellow graduate of SVA. When the time came to pitch the show to Disney, Dana asked her best friend if she could name the main character after her. The real Luz agreed on the condition that she had to be Dominican. Dana agreed, and the character that we know today as Luz Noceda was born. Ida was based on Dana's mother, aunt, and grandmother, who she describes as the woman who raised her, while the character of Kin was reflective of the small pieces of Dana's ego in a Pokemon-like package. This is significant because Pokemon Red was the last thing her father Thomas gave to her before he passed away. One of Dana's fellow colleagues at the time tried to discourage her from continuing to develop the show because they thought it was a dumb idea. Despite this attempted discouragement, she kept working on her pitch for the Owl House, and it wasn't just because she believed in her idea. She also had a desire to prove her colleague wrong. That would turn out to be a smart move, because on February 23rd, 2018, Disney Channel announced that they had greenlit the Owl House and that it would premiere in 2019. You might think that a show involving the demon realm wouldn't be a good fit for the squeaky clean Disney Channel, but the network showed a tremendous amount of faith and support in this weird and crazy cartoon about witches, and it was this faith and support that allowed Luz, Ida, and Kin to officially make their way to television. Disney Channel continued to show its faith and support in the Owl House by renewing it for a second season 2 months before the series itself premiered. The Owl House would officially premiere on January 10th, 2020, with the episode A Lying Witch and a Warden, which capped off 5 years of hard work from conception to the finished product we eventually saw on screen. Everyone expected the Owl House to be about Luz pursuing her dream of becoming a witch. Nobody could have possibly expected that she would form a relationship with Amity and that it would develop so quickly over the course of Season 1. But how did they go from rivals to more than friends? Gather around the campfire with some hot chocolate and a bucket of popcorn, because I'm going to tell the story of Lumity and how it came to be. Amity Blight made her first appearance in the episode I Was a Teenage Abomination. Amity is the top student in the Abomination track, and has held the top student badge longer than I've been alive, and she is not afraid to flaunt that status when she sees her former friend Willow, because her abominations in comparison are, for lack of a better term, absolutely dreadful. Luz wants to go to magic school to learn real magic, while Willow wants to get a passing grade in her abomination class for once. So Luz decides to pretend to be Willow's abomination. She does the typical things humans pretending to be abominations do, and it blows Willow's class away. Willow gets an A+ and the top student badge, which really pisses Amity off, because Willow's abominations were not up to snuff when she last saw her, and now she's getting an A+. To say that Amity was suspicious about Willow's abomination would be an understatement. We now fast forward to lunch, where Willow's friend, Gus, feeds Luz half of his peanut butter jelly sandwich. Amity sees this and proceeds to jump on the table they are sitting on because she knows that abominations don't eat. She then demands to know who Luz really is because she is convinced that Luz is not actually an abomination. Her outburst ends up landing her in hot water with her and Willow's abomination teacher, Mr. Snugglepuff, who promptly sends her to Principal Bump's office. Principal Bump takes an interest in Willow's abomination thing and decides that he wants to perform an experiment, and when I say experiment, I mean dissection. Knowing that Luz is about to be cut open like a turkey on Thanksgiving, Gus knocks over the abomination cauldrons, which distract Amity and Principal Bump and give Luz and Willow a chance to escape. The doors get sealed, which trap Luz and Willow inside, but thanks to some well-timed plant magic from Willow, the abominations are swiftly disposed of, and the sealed doors reopen, but just when it looks like Luz and Willow are about to escape, Amity stops them and declares that she won't let them get away, and that she wants her top student badge back. She uses her abominations to try and seize Luz and Willow, but Willow uses her plant magic to stop Amity's abomination in its tracks, which allows Luz to escape. As a result of her intrusion, Luz gets banned from Hexside. This episode planted the seed for Luz and Amity's relationship, and that seed would continue to grow over the course of the first season. Next up is Convention, aka Episode 5. Luz attends the convention to see real witches in action, and ends up running into Amity. And as you can probably imagine, Amity isn't very happy to see Luz, and refers to her as Willow's abomination thing. Luz clarifies that she is a human and not an abomination, but Amity is not in the mood to be friendly, and blames Luz for getting her into trouble with Principal Bump, and she never gets into trouble. After a few more words are exchanged, Amity tells Luz that she can't be at the convention because conventions are for witches only. Luz tells Amity that she is learning to become a witch and that she is receiving lessons from a powerful witch and a ferocious demon. Kin is the exact opposite of a ferocious demon, as he walks around with a t-shirt and a cupcake, which he ends up dropping on the floor, which allows Amity to assert her status as a certified mean girl by stepping on it. Why would Amity do this? It's because she believes that Luz and Kin are giving witches in training a bad name. By this point, Luz has reached her boiling point and has had enough of Amity's bullying, so she decides to challenge Amity to a witches duel. Amity accepts, and the two create a bet bound by an oath. If Luz wins, then Amity has to apologize for stepping on Kin's cupcake. But if Amity wins, Luz not only has to tell everyone that she is not a witch, but she has to stop practicing magic forever. Ida is well aware that Luz doesn't stand a chance against Amity due to her limited magical abilities, so she decides to even the odds by cheating. She sets up several traps and tells Luz to get Amity's abomination to step on them so that it looks like she's performing magic. That's a bold strategy there, Cotton, but it doesn't pay off for her because Amity realizes that Luz is cheating. Luz tries to explain to Amity that Ida was the one that was cheating and that she tried to stop it, but Amity isn't interested in hearing anything Luz has to say at this point. This seems like a pretty open and shut case until the episode decides to pull an Uno reverse card when it's revealed that Amity herself was cheating with a power glyph from the Construction Coven, which was unknowingly placed onto her by her mentor Lilith, who just so happens to be Ida's sister. After getting thoroughly humiliated and embarrassed in front of everyone, Amity runs off in shame and Luz decides to go after her, which leads to this moment.
Amity, I'm sorry.
Seriously, just leave me alone.
I didn't mean to embarrass you.
That's all you ever do. First at school and now this.
Yeah, but...
You made me look like a fool in front of the Emperor's Coven. My future! You think it's so easy to be a witch. I have been working my whole life to get to the top. You lost. You cheated. Say it. Say you're not a witch.
I'm not a witch. But I'm training hard to be one.
That's nothing. A child could do a light spell. But I've never seen it cast like that.
It doesn't come naturally to me, like it does for you, so I've had to improvise.
The oath is unbound.
Did it work? Can I still learn magic?
Humans have no magical ability, but I doubt that'll stop you.
Next up is Episode 7, Lost in Language. This episode reveals a softer side to Amity as we see her reading to kids, and while she tries to claim that it's just for extra credit, we all know deep down inside that she reads to kids because she secretly loves it. As you can probably imagine, Amity hates Luz's guts at this point and wants nothing more than for Luz to leave her alone, because in her eyes, every time Luz comes around, she gets into trouble. Luz walks away utterly dejected because she believes she just blew her shot at befriending Amity, and then, seemingly out of nowhere, Amity's older twin siblings, Edric and Amira, show up to playfully tease her with the incredibly embarrassing nickname Mittens. Edric hands Amity her lunch and tells her to stop being a jerk to Luz because he thinks they are friends. Amity makes it very clear that they are not friends. Amira says that it makes sense that her and Luz aren't friends because Luz seems too cool for her. Edric and Amira tell Luz that they heard all about her embarrassing Amity at Hexside and the convention. Luz makes it very clear that she didn't mean to embarrass Amity, or as she puts it, I thought we were as cool as cucumbers, but we're as sour as pickles. Edric and Amira proceed to show Luz that they are so much more fun than Amity by pulling pranks and causing mischief in the library, which results in all three of them getting kicked out because Amity snitched on them to the librarian. Edric and Amira tell Luz that they plan to return to the library at midnight to check out a certain book, and that she is welcome to join them. Luz agrees to this because she believes that befriending Edric and Amira will open the pathway to befriending Amity. Unbeknownst to her, Amity was hiding in the corner the entire time, and she got so angry that she nearly passed out. Remember that special book that Edric and Amira wanted to check out? Well, it turns out that special book is Amity's diary, which the twins are determined to find so they can release the pages for everyone at Hexside to see as a way of getting back at Amity for constantly tattling on them because they ditched class. This episode also reveals that Amity is a huge fan of the Good Witch Azura book series and that she has books 1 through 4. While Luz geeks out over her and Amity having something in common, she finds something that she didn't want to find.
I saw that human girl again. The diary. I may have overreacted. I don't want to come off as cruel, I just can't show weakness. No.
What have you got there, Luz?
Oh, nothing. Just a Good Witch Azura 5, where she goes through her goth phase.
What? No, wait! It's not fair. I'm the only one who knows Ed and Em aren't perfect. Why do they keep getting away with things?
This is it!
Luz, were you hiding this from us?
You see how she treats people, how she treats you.
I know Amity can be kind of cold, but no one deserves this. These are private thoughts. Let's put it back.
She needs this!
It's for her own good! I wish I had somewhere to go. Why won't the human leave me alone? Called my teacher Mom again. Sorry I haven't written for a while.
Wait, why am I apologizing?
I wish I had somewhere to go. Leave me alone. Really? It's not what it looks like.
You two are the worst. But you?
I've been trying to figure out what your deal is. Are you a poser? A nerd? I know. You're a bully, Luz.
Luz runs off to apologize to Amity while Amity expresses frustration with her inability to pick a side, because from her perspective all Luz has done up until this point is embarrass her, so you can't really blame her for not wanting to be Luz's friend. Remember that book that Amity was reading to the kids earlier in the episode called Odabin? Well, that cute little creature was turned into a monster because Edric drew a pair of claws onto him. He wants to have a friend to make his own, so he grabs Amity and begins threading her into his book. Luz tries to save her by dressing up as Azura, but it fails miserably, and she ends up getting put into the book to be threaded alongside Amity. And just when it looks like they're about to become 2D drawings forever, Luz gets the idea to tip over the book and hit Odabin in the face, which allows her and Amity to make a break for it. Luz makes a dumb noise which causes Amity to laugh, which is the first time she has genuinely laughed since she was first introduced. Odabin pulls Luz and Amity back towards him so he can complete his threading, but Amity manages to break free. But Luz isn't so lucky because Odabin really wants her to be his friend forever. He nearly succeeds with his threading until Amity runs into him and knocks a bookshelf onto his head. Amity frees Luz from the thread, but Odabin won't give up that easily and grabs Luz again to try and complete his threading. Amity realizes that Luz has to write a Ron and writes it down in a book, which spawns a magic eraser. She throws the magic eraser to Luz, who erases Odabin's angry face, which reverts him back to his normal form. Luz thanks Amity for helping her clean up the library. Amity responds by saying that the whole thing never happened. Luz then offers to let Amity borrow the Good Witch Azura Book 5 because she noticed that she only had books 1 through 4. Amity responds by saying thank you and acknowledges that Luz may not be a bully and that she wasn't the friendliest witch either, and that she would reflect on her own behavior moving forward, or as she puts it, I'll think on that. We're now up to episode 12, Adventures in the Elements. Luz meets up with Amity to retrieve the Good Witch Azura book that she let Amity borrow. Luz proceeds to ask Amity how the book was. She said it was fine, which is totally something somebody would say when they draw themselves with one of the characters, so to put it mildly, Amity thought the book was more than fine. Luz tells Amity that they can start up an Azura book club when they're both students at Hexside. And that's right, folks, Luz's big surprise is that she is enrolling at Hexside. But the excitement is short-lived when Amity tells Luz that she has to know 2 spells in order to be in her class. Individuals who only know 1 spell get placed in the dreaded baby class. Luz claims that she knows more than 1 spell, which we all know is an obvious lie. Luz begs Ida to teach her another spell and convinces her to do it by pointing out how bad it would look if her apprentice was stuck in the baby class. Ida and Luz travel to the snowy wilderness to learn some good old-fashioned magic. They both think they have the entire wilderness to themselves, but this turns out to not be the case because Amity, Edric, and Amira happen to be there practicing their spells. Edric asks Luz if she is working on a powerful spell. She replies by saying that she is working on something so crazy, and that Ida is an incredible teacher. Speaking of which, Ida tries to teach Luz a second spell the natural way, but Luz in this episode, for lack of a better term, is incredibly impatient and wants to learn her second spell the easy way, so she decides to borrow Amity's training wand to go full Mario and shoot a fireball. Ida catches her doing this and lectures her about Amity's training wand not being able to help her develop her skills, whereas connecting to the island naturally would. Luz refuses to listen to Ida and uses Amity's training wand to shoot another fireball, which spirals out of control and angers the Slither Beast, who ends up capturing Ida. Edric and Amira try to bring down the Slither Beast while Amity tries to take it out with her training wand, but her spell doesn't work because Luz used up all of the wand's battery power. Edric and Amira call upon Luz to use one of her crazy spells that she was talking about. Luz is forced to come clean and admit that she doesn't know any, which results in Edric and Amira getting captured. Amity blames Luz for allowing Edric and Amira to get captured and declares that she is going after them. Luz wants to help her because the beast captured Ida, but Amity orders Luz to stay put and seals her in a barrier because she doesn't want her to get hurt, which shows how far Amity has grown to care about Luz since the events of I Was a Teenage Abomination. Luz finally learns her second spell when she realizes that magic comes from the island and is everywhere. She combines her light glyph with some snow to create an ice block, which she uses to escape the barrier. Luz arrives at the cave and forms a plan with Amity to defeat the Slither Beast. Luz distracts the beast by getting it to chase her, which allows Amity to free Ida, Edric, and Amira with a fire spell, and she didn't even need her training wand to do it. I didn't say this before, but I'm going to say it now. This character development is absolutely immaculate. Luz uses her second spell to knock the Slither Beast into the air, which causes it to turn itself around and leap towards Ida, Amity, Edric, and Amira. The Slither Beast finally gets taken down when Ida knocks it out with a sleep spell. Amity tells Luz that it looks like they're going to be in the same class, which results in Luz becoming incredibly excited over the prospect of starting an Azura book club, which Amity agrees to as long as it's a secret club. Luz uses her second spell to launch her and Ida into the air, and the episode ends. Technically, it doesn't end here, but in terms of Lumity moments, this is where it ends. The first day, aka episode 13, contains the fewest amount of Lumity moments out of all the episodes I've talked about so far, but there are still 2 moments that are worth talking about. It's Luz's first day at Hexside, and Amity is the first person to greet her. What makes this moment even sweeter is that her abomination has the decency to give her a high five. This is something the Amity from I Was a Teenage Abomination, Convention, and most of Lost in Language would have never done. There's also this moment later in the episode which totally doesn't plant the seed for Amity having feelings towards Luz.
So you two go to the same school now. That doesn't change anything. Huh?
We're almost at the main event, but we still have one more episode to talk about before we get there, which is episode 15, Understanding Willow. Luz wants to know what happened between Willow and Amity so she can cook up a scheme to get them to be friends again. Willow isn't on board with this idea because her former friendship with Amity is still a very big sore spot for her, and she prefers to pretend that it never happened, or as she puts it, out of sight, out of mind. Luz flips over the picture Willow turned over of her and Amity as children, stating that she never mentioned anything about shenanigans. Amity walks by the photo class and sees the photo of her and Willow as children and decides to destroy it with a fire spell, which ends up causing all of Willow's memories to catch on fire and burn away. Amity blows on the pictures to try and put the fire out, but that ends up working about as well as trying to cook instant ramen in the microwave without any water. Willow's memory gets completely wiped out, and her brain ends up turning into complete mush, or to be more technically accurate, Willow EXE stopped working. Luz and Amity go back to the Owl House to figure out a way to repair Willow's memories. Ida tells Luz and Amity that the only way to do this is to enter her mind and repair all of her memories one by one. Luz decides that she wants Amity to go with her. Amity is understandably reluctant because she feels Willow wouldn't want her in her mind, but Luz points out that because she was the one that destroyed Willow's memories, she has to be the one to help her fix them. Amity agrees to this, and they both enter Willow's mind. Luz and Amity jump into the first memory, which takes place in Lake Lacuna, where Willow and Amity took swimming lessons. Amity sees the fort her and Willow built. She also finds a small little flag that says A+W and puts it back into its hole, which fixes the fort and repairs the memory. Luz sees the photo that Amity destroyed in the fire and declares that it should be the next memory they fix, but just before Luz enters the memory, Amity stops her and directs her attention towards another memory. After they both jump into that particular memory, Inner Willow shows up, and I am 100% confident that she is not pissed about what Amity did to Willow when they were children. Next up is a memory montage where Luz and Amity repair Willow's memories one by one. This is important in terms of establishing Willow and Amity's former friendship and all of the good times they shared together. It's almost as if Amity was forced to be a mean person by the two people that gave her life, but we'll get to that later. After fixing the roller ghoster memory, Amity says that she can't believe that she almost erased all of these memories and that she really messed things up with Willow. Luz assures Amity that they've gotten really good at fixing memories and that she won't rest until it's all sorted out. She then says we can fix this together, which Amity repeats, and she even blushes while doing so, which is totally platonic and is not hinting towards anything. Luz acknowledges how painful some of these memories are for Amity and wants to know what happened between her and Willow and why she is trying so hard to hide it. And then Inner Willow shows up for a split second and then promptly disappears, which is totally not creepy in any way, shape, or form. After fixing the egg memory, Luz sets her sights on the memory that started it all, aka the one Amity has been suspiciously avoiding the entire time. Amity desperately wants to skip it, but Luz won't let her because it's the last memory, and they have to fix all of them so that Willow can revert back to her normal self. She realizes that there is something in that memory that Amity doesn't want her to see. She quickly assures Amity that she is not there to judge and just wants to help Willow. Amity lashes out and tells Luz that all she is doing is prying into her friends' lives. She then says, "Did you ever think that maybe it's none of your business?" And then Amity notices that something is burning, which is not a good sign because Inner Willow has shown up once again, and she is pissed. As a matter of fact, she is so pissed that she begins destroying all of the memories. Luz and Amity try to use the bell Ida gave them so they can escape Willow's mind, but it doesn't work because she is doing a bell dance, so they are pretty much on their own. Inner Willow proceeds to destroy all of the memories that have Amity in them, because the ones that didn't have Amity in them were left completely untouched. Luz and Amity quickly jump back into the fort memory, where Luz uses her ice glyph to knock Inner Willow into the water. Inner Willow reemerges and makes it very clear that she has a bone to pick with Little Miss Perfect, or as she puts it, every memory she touched, I'm going to burn. Inner Willow grabs Amity and puts her into the memory that started it all. She then says that her motivation for going after Amity is her finishing what she started, which leads to this trip down memory lane.
You have to get out, Willow! Now!
Wait, why? Because... Is it because I still can't do magic? Amity, I'm sorry I got us in trouble at the beach. I can't get the spells right.
Well, yes, that is why. Because you're a weakling. You can't do magic, so I don't want to be your friend. Now go!
Then you let your new friends pick on her for years. All because you thought she was weak. Well, now I can erase all that pain. After all, out of sight, out of mind.
Amity! Wait, please. Before all this started, there was something else.
Amity?
What is Willow doing here? She wasn't on the guest list for a reason.
But she's my best friend.
Nonsense. Blights only associate with the strongest of witchlings. You may choose a new friend from one of the suitable companions we invited.
But they're mean. Just because you work with their parents doesn't mean I have to like them.
Good children don't squabble, dear. Sever your ties with Willow, and if you don't...
Then we will.
We'll make sure the girl is never admitted into Hexside. Now go, and try not to make a scene.
Amity has a heart-to-heart with Inner Willow and tells her that she was never too weak to be her friend. She follows this up by admitting that she was too weak to be her friend. She also acknowledges that she can't take back what she did in the past, but promises to never allow Basha and Turgan to pick on Willow ever again. Inner Willow accepts Amity's heartfelt confession and tells her that Willow should keep her memories of Amity, both good and bad. Luz and Amity fix all of Willow's memories and put them back in their rightful places. After an emotional trip down memory lane, Luz and Amity ring the bell and they both exit Willow's mind. Willow regains her memory and is back to her normal, fun-loving self. Just as Amity is about to walk out the door, she tells her that she remembered what she did in her mind and that, while she can't say that they are friends, it's a start. Amity smiles back, waves goodbye, and walks out the door. At this point, it's fair to say that Amity Blight has started to right her wrongs, and she didn't even need a magic eraser to do it. We've finally reached the moment you've been waiting for, episode 16, Enchanting Grom Fright. For those of you that don't know what Grom is, it's basically Hexside's version of prom, but with a major twist. The girl that gets chosen to be Grom Queen has to fight a monster called Grom that can shapeshift into a person's worst fear. It's basically a video game boss battle that disguises itself as a prom. Amity bumps into Luz and drops her note. When Luz hands it back to her, she quickly snatches it out of her hands because the note is private and she doesn't want Luz to see it. Gee, I wonder why. Principal Bump comes on the intercom and announces that Amity has been chosen to be Grom Queen. Luz is incredibly excited for her, but Amity doesn't share that same excitement and runs off. Willow tells Luz to give Amity some space because being a Grom Queen is a tough job, even for someone like her. We now move to the Hexside gym where Luz decides to press the big red button out of sheer curiosity and reveals an underground arena. On top of this, an arsenal of weapons is also revealed. Luz thinks medieval torture is a strange theme for Grom, but she accepts it as a form of decoration. Amity tells Luz that the weapons are not for decoration, and that she will be making her appearance as Grom Queen in this very arena. She then proceeds to explain that Grom is a monster that lives under the school that tries to break out every year, and that a student must defeat it before it invades the entire town. And if that wasn't crazy enough, Principal Bump holds a party and calls it tradition, and as I mentioned before, Grom is a monster that can shapeshift into a person's worst fear, which segues into Amity admitting that her worst fear is very embarrassing. Luz suggests that Amity should tell Principal Bump that she doesn't want to be the Grom Queen, which Amity takes to heart. We're now back at the Owl House where Luz tells Ida that Amity was chosen to be Grom Queen and that she is freaking out about it. She then brings up the idea of replacing Amity as Grom Queen, which causes Ida and Kin to laugh. Ida tells Luz that Grom is above her pay grade, and believes she is too fragile to handle it because she's a human. Luz rejects this notion and believes she can totally handle Grom. due to her learning lots of new spells, but as we will later find out, she is in way over her head. We now cut to Luz walking through the woods, and she is clearly upset by Ida's assertion that she is too fragile to handle Grom. And then she hears ominous footsteps in the bushes that grow closer and closer, so she grabs her twig and charges at the person with the ominous footsteps and whacks them over the head. That person turned out to be Amity. Luz asks Amity if she was able to convince Bump to relieve her of her Grom Queen duties. Amity says that she still has to be Grom Queen unless she can find a replacement. Luz offers to take her place on the spot and that she will be her fearless champion. Back at the Owl House, Hooty informs Luz that she has a guest, which turns out to be Amity. She tells Luz that if she can't defeat Grom, everyone on the Boiling Isles will have to live out their worst nightmare. Luz makes a list of her worst fears and hands them to Amity. Her worst fears are debating with jerks online, weird human-cat hybrids, and milk because she is lactose intolerant. Amity asks Luz what her real fear really is. Luz admits that her real fear is Ida thinking that she is too fragile to handle Grom, and she knows that if Ida is right, she'll never become a real witch. Ida believes she can defeat Grom, but as we all know, she is not ready to face it. We have finally made it. We're now at the main event, Grom, aka Hexside's Super Bowl. Luz and Amity have a heart-to-heart before Luz goes into the arena to face Grom. Amity admits that she is amazed by how fearless Luz is, and how she has done things she would never do. This scene is honestly heartwarming and in my opinion is a true testament to how far Luz and Amity have come as characters. But enough about all of that. Luz has a Grom to fight. After all, we all tuned in tonight to watch a teenage girl fight against a shape-shifting monster. Luz uses her Ice Glyph to take out her first fear, and then she uses it again to take out her second fear. Things are going pretty good for Luz so far. It honestly looks like she's going to defeat Grom easily. And then this episode decides to pull an Uno reverse card. Grom reads her mind and shapeshifts into her worst fear. The portal door that she used to enter this world appears, and the door opens, and the person who appears on the other side is her mother.
It's a trap!
Luz's worst fear is her mother finding out that she's not actually at summer camp, and has been on the Boiling Isles the entire time. As you can probably imagine, Luz is unable to face her fear and runs away from it. Grom, which has taken the form of Luz's mother, chases her all the way to an edge of a cliff, and just when it looks like Grom is about to get the upper hand, Ida shows up in the nick of time to save the day. Luz admits to Ida that she is not ready. Ida says it's okay and is about to save her until Amity shows up to save the day instead. Grom grabs Amity and reads her mind, and then it shapeshifts into her worst fear, which turns out to be a mysterious person reading her note and ripping it in half. Luz grabs one half of the note, which says, "Will you go to Grom with me?" Luz realizes that Amity's worst fear was getting rejected by the person she wanted to ask out to Grom, so she decides to ask her out on the spot, because after all, that's what friends do. And then this happened.
Well then, if that's settled, may I have this dance?
So, who did you want to ask out?
Oh, it's not important.
After the episode premiered, Dana took to Twitter to reveal some very interesting things about how Enchanting Grom Fright came to be. When I was first developing Owl House, I always wanted to do a prom episode to make up for my own experiences. Back then, prom was an anagram for Perennial Ritual Offering Mating. I'm so incredibly grateful for the crew working to make this episode so badass. In development, I was very open about my intention to put queer kids in the main cast. I'm a horrible liar, so sneaking it in would have been hard. When we were greenlit, I was told by certain Disney leadership that I could not represent any form of bi or gay relationship on the channel. I'm bi! I want to write a bi character, damn it! Luckily, my stubbornness paid off, and now I am very supported by current Disney leadership. Thank you, Nash Riskin and team, not to mention the amazingness of this crew. Gravity Falls creator Alex Hirsch, who also happens to be the voice of Kin and Hootie, gave his 2 cents on the progress Disney Channel has made in terms of LGBTQ representation. Back when I made Gravity Falls, Disney forbade me from any explicit LGBTQ representation. Apparently, happiest place on Earth meant straightest, but as of today, thanks to Dana, Terrace, and team, there are explicitly queer animated main characters on Disney TV. I'm so proud and happy to say that. In 2012, the Disney censor note on this image would have been, "Inappropriate for channel! Please revise! Call to discuss!" to avoid a paper trail. Now in 2020, there's no note at all. Props where props are due. This time, Disney, you did good. In the series finale of Gravity Falls, the 2 male sheriffs were confirmed to be a couple, and the only reason Disney allowed that to happen was because the series was ending, and as such, they knew that concerned parents wouldn't lose their shit over it. I personally believe that Disney Channel's stance against LGBTQ representation up until recently may have had something to do with an episode of Good Luck Charlie that aired all the way back in 2014 where this happened.
Charlie, honey, you ready for your play date?
Yay!
Who's coming over?
Taylor. I invited her parents, too.
So we're all having a play date?
Honey, this one is actually going to be fun. I met the mom, Susan. She's really nice.
Oh, I met her. I thought her name was Cheryl.
No, it's Susan.
Are you sure?
Am I sure that I'm right and you're wrong? Always. Okay, that must be done. Hi!
Taylor!
Hi, Susan.
Hi. Amy, this is Taylor's other mom, Cheryl.
Oh, hi. This is my husband, Bob.
Hey, nice to meet you. Come on in. Come on in. Taylor has 2 moms.
Nothing gets past you, Bob.
Some people were so angry that the Disney Channel would dare to show something as inappropriate as 2 lesbian moms bringing their daughter over for a playdate that they decided it would be a good idea to send death threats to Mia Tallarico, the actress that played the titular Charlie. Mia Tallarico was only 5 years old at the time. It's important to note that it was never officially confirmed that she received death threats because of this episode, but if that wasn't the case, then I honestly don't understand why anyone would think it's okay to send death threats to a 5-year-old girl. It's totally not out of the realm of plausibility that Disney Channel executives freaked out over this incident and decided to ban any form of LGBTQ representation on the network in order to prevent something like this from happening ever again. But that is purely an assumption on my part because I obviously have no insider knowledge about the behind-the-scenes inner workings of Disney Channel. But that was then and this is now, and as you can clearly see, the network has made positive strides in the right direction in terms of LGBTQ representation. In a recent Reddit AMA, Dana confirmed that Amity was a lesbian and that Luz is her first crush. Luz, on the other hand, was confirmed to be a bisexual. As a matter of fact, she is actually the first bisexual character in the entire 36-year history of Disney television animation. And if that wasn't awesome enough, the episode was written by Molly Knox Ostertag, who is a staff writer on the show, and just so happens to be the wife of Noelle Stevenson, who was the showrunner of Netflix's She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which literally ends with the main character getting kissed back to life. Part of the reason why Enchanting Grom Fright works so well is because it comes from an honest place. It doesn't feel forced or shoehorned in, and it certainly doesn't come off as pandering. Luz and Amity's entire relationship up until this point has had a purpose, and because their relationship is so well developed and their chemistry is so on point, the dance they share near the end of the episode is earned and sincere, which makes the payoff all the more satisfying when you realize what it took to get there. Luz and Amity aren't great characters because one half is bisexual and the other half is a lesbian. They are great characters who just happen to be a bisexual and a lesbian, and I honestly believe that we are eventually going to get to the point where same-sex relationships are commonplace in cartoons, and are seen as a normal thing. We still have quite a ways to go before that actually happens, but I can see the tide starting to change. And that is awesome, because same-sex relationships are normal, and we should treat it as such, or as Alex Hirsch puts it. Also, if you have a problem with this stuff, take it up with your therapist or whoever in your upbringing taught you to fear something totally normal. They did you a disservice, and you can still grow. Gay people exist. They live with your bullshit, you can live with theirs. To say that I'm surprised that Luz and Amity's relationship has come so far in Season 1 would be an understatement. I think it's safe to say that these two will eventually get together. I don't know how it will happen or when it will happen, but I'm 100% confident that it will happen at some point. They could go with the cliche will they or won't they trope and drag it out for as long as humanly possible, or they could subvert our expectations and have them get together sooner rather than later. I could honestly see them going in either direction based on what they think is best suited for the particular story they are trying to tell, but I believe that no matter what direction they decide to go in, Luz and Amity will become a couple. At this point, it's only a matter of time due to the amount of seeds that have been planted so far. So for all you Lumity shippers that are watching this video right now, just hang in there and you'll eventually get your wish. With that being said, the biggest obstacle in terms of Luz and Amity becoming a couple will be Amity's parents, Alistair and Odalia, who in my opinion are the worst parents in cartoon history. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. They make Peter and Lois Griffin from the newer seasons of Family Guy look like superstar parents. These are the same people that forced Amity to end her friendship with Willow because they thought she was weak. If they were willing to do that, I can't even imagine what they will do when they find out that Amity is not only friends with the human girl, but has a crush on her as well. I think that Amity will be forced to choose between joining the Emperor's Coven and being the kind of person her parents want her to be, or being with Luz so she can be the kind of person she actually is. And in the end, I believe that Amity will defy her parents and decide to be with Luz so she can be happy. But that's just my personal interpretation of how I think everything is going to play out. I'm not MatPat, Ostrich Vox, or Rebecca Rose. I'm not a master theorist by any means, but I do believe that Luz and Amity's love will eventually prevail, because at the end of the day, their love is just like magic.